Everyone, in today's episode, I want to talk about action versus acceptance with insomnia. There's this strange balance when you're dealing with insomnia and you're trying to overcome it, and you're going through this process that I've described in terms of how to overcome insomnia, that there's a balance between these two different things: action, taking action, doing things to help to solve the problem, and acceptance. And today I want to talk about these two different things and how they work kind of like symbiotically when you're trying to overcome insomnia. Now, I've talked in previous videos on how trying to sleep or putting in effort to sleep has the opposite effect. It makes it more difficult to sleep. It brings too much focus on the sleep. It makes you more anxious and stressed about the sleep, and so you don't want to do that. And where the effort goes is in implementing certain key behaviors and shifts in your thinking around the sleep, rather than the sleep itself, and creating the conditions that will automatically and effortlessly over time improve the sleep and ultimately get rid of the insomnia. That's the action part. But there's also this piece of acceptance. And so what that means is, because you can't force sleep, you can't through your will force yourself to sleep. Sleep is something that will come by itself when the conditions mostly internally are there. And, there definitely needs to be some external conditions too that are conducive to sleep. And when those conditions are in place, sleep comes automatically, effortlessly, no problem. It's even hard to not sleep under those conditions. And so what you need to do when you're going through this process I've described, CBT-I, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, is a combination of action, so let me define what I mean by action here. Action is implementing the key behavior shifts and the key mindset shifts around your sleep that will over time result in getting rid of the insomnia and establishing or reestablishing a normal, healthy sleep pattern that you can sustain. And I've talked about the 4 key behaviors before, which are, keeping really good sleep data, implementing and creating a sleep schedule that's based on your current pattern of sleep. And then the third is practicing the 30-30, which is, knowing when to get out of the bed and when to get back into the bed when you're not sleeping. And then the fourth is managing your mindset, your emotions, your thoughts as you're going through this process, so you don't get pulled into a lot of emotions that are going to stimulate you or emotions that are going to take you off track and away from implementing these key behaviors. That's the action part of the process for overcoming insomnia. And it's very important because there's certain actions that you took that led to and created the insomnia to begin with. And those are called poor sleep behaviors and negative sleep thoughts. And those are the things that are the root causes of the insomnia. And so what we're doing with the actions to get rid of those things we're having you stop those things and shift your behavior and your focus to doing these things that are going to restore the sleep. So that's the action part of it. Now, what about the acceptance part of it? The acceptance part of it is really important, and it's really part of the mindset part of this, or the emotional part of this. So as you're going through this process, you're still going to have poor nights of sleep. You might have nights of sleep where you don't sleep at all. It depends on where your particular insomnia is. And you're going to have different emotions. You're going to have different physical reactions to things. And you need to not fight that as you're going through the process. You need to not respond to that in a way where you're fighting it, you're getting frustrated with it, you're banging banging your hand on the table because you're frustrated, and you're kind of getting in the way of your body being able to transition and change and go through the process and let the behavioral things, the actions that you're doing take effect in your body and in your sleep system to result in change that will break down the insomnia, eliminate it, and reestablish a healthy pattern of sleep. What I see a lot that happens with clients that I work with is what gets in their way is not so much implementing the skills. Sometimes that is a problem, and people are not, implementing and practicing the skills and doing it consistently and doing it correctly. And of course, therefore, they're not going to be able to get past the problem. But some clients, or the clients that really are on top of those things, still struggle when they don't implement or don't add to this acceptance part of it. And it's kind of a Zen relationship, that they need to develop with the sleep, because otherwise they get too reactive to what's happening on a particular night or a particular week. And so let me give you an example. Let's say they're implementing the skills, they're going to bed at the right time, and they're getting up at the right time. But let's say on a given night, they go to sleep and they're having difficulty falling asleep. Okay, what they need to do is use the 30-30 rule, which is getting out of bed at a certain time, going to another room, and implementing that skill. I've talked about the skill in more detail in other episodes. But where they run into problems here is the way they implement the skill. If, they react that, let's say they're not sleeping and they have to get out of the bed, yes, it makes sense. It's normal to get frustrated at first when you realize, hey, this isn't happening. I'm not falling asleep. And then you have to get up and get out of the bed. Okay. But once you're up and out of the bed, you need to accept that. You need to accept that you are not sleeping at that moment, and your body is not ready for sleep, and you can't force it. And getting frustrated and angry and, with your sleep or with the process will only make it worse. You're literally getting in the way of the process working when you're doing that. And that will keep you stuck, and that will keep you from progressing with the sleep. So acceptance is about accepting in the moment whatever is happening with your sleep, with your emotions. Like if you're getting anxious or even frustrated, you accept it. You don't fight it. You don't get pulled into it. You don't feed it more by getting frustrated with your frustration or getting frustrated with the fact that you're anxious or whatever the emotion is. You allow it to be there. Okay? So this is part of what mindfulness is. And mindfulness, or at least the part of mindfulness that I like, is the acceptance that if you're feeling something or your sleep is doing something on a particular night, like you're not sleeping or whatever it is, you accept it because that is what's happening. And if you try to fight it or you get upset about it, you just make the problem worse. And really part of overcoming insomnia is getting to a place where you can accept what's going on without getting upset while you're still implementing the skills and following the process. And the combination of those two things is what really gets rid of insomnia for people. So the example I give a lot for myself is, when I had insomnia, I was following everything perfectly. I mean, that's just, I was implementing everything. And, it was like not until the third week that things started to change. So what changed? Well, for me, my biggest fear, and this really, my biggest fear was I wouldn't be able to function the next day. Okay. So like if I didn't get a good night's sleep or I didn't sleep at all, my worry was I'm not going to be able to function. I'm not going to be able to do my job, get through the day, deal with life, because I won't have had enough sleep. And this is one of the common worries that people have around not sleeping is I'm not going to be able to function the next day in whatever capacity, you need to function in. And so because of that, of course, because I had that worry, I was more anxious when I was sleeping, and there was this pressure to sleep. And of course that interfered with my sleep. So my fear of not sleeping was leading to, or at least contributing to me not being able to sleep, because all those emotions and fears were coming up at night when I was going to sleep. So I'd be getting out of the bed, I'd be practicing, the skills, and I wasn't making any progression. Like it seemed like the skills weren't working, right? In quotes, because my sleep wasn't progressing at all. And what shifted was when I accepted, a couple things. So when I wasn't sleeping and I needed to get out of the bed, once I was out of the bed, I accepted, I'm not sleeping right now. And I'm just going to make peace with this. I'm actually going to learn to enjoy this time that I'm up. I just fully accepted it. And I forgot about sleep, and I forgot about the time, and I forgot about, hey, I got to get up tomorrow and do X, Y, and Z. And I just picked up my book and I read my book. And that was my relaxing, enjoyable activity. It can be whatever you want it to be, but you need something that allows you to just forget about sleep and take a little break from it and just enjoy the activity itself. For me, it was reading until I felt, that pressure, sleep pressure, to get back into bed. And so I had to accept a couple things here. One was the fact that I wasn't sleeping right then, and that if I just kept staying in bed and waiting for sleep, it was very likely not to come. So I knew that I had to get up and go out and get out of the bed. So I had to accept that I wasn't sleeping and be okay with that and make peace with that. It doesn't mean that like I didn't want to sleep. It was just that this was what was happening and I need to make peace with that. The other thing I needed to make peace with was, the possibility of not getting back to sleep that night, or the possibility that I might only get 2, 3, 4 hours of sleep. And that I was going to be okay with that I could be okay with that I would survive, that I basically had to get beyond the fear of that happening, And so I got to this place where I could accept I wasn't sleeping, and hey, if I didn't get back to sleep tonight, I'm going to be okay. And literally meant that, not just like a positive thought I was saying to myself or trying to convince myself I was okay with it. I had to get to a place where I was really okay with not sleeping, and I wasn't afraid of it, and I was at peace with that. And when I got to that place, when I had that relationship with the sleep, that is when my sleep started to improve. And that's when I started having an upswing and progressing without changing any of the skills. Like I was already doing the skills, but what I needed was that shift in my mind to accept what was going on and actually make peace with it and make peace with the fears that I had around not sleeping. And once that happened, I started sleeping better. Why? Well, because now I was more relaxed when those things happened. I wasn't fighting it. I wasn't getting frustrated. I wasn't, getting in my own way. I made peace with it, and therefore I was relaxed, and therefore I actually started falling asleep faster and getting better sleep because I was more relaxed. And then my data started to improve because I was sleeping better, and I saw that, and that helped with the frame of mind as well. And then it was like a positive feedback loop where things progressed until I got past the insomnia. But along that way, it wasn't like it shifted in that one night and then, I was good. I had to keep going back and forth between the acceptance and the implementing of the skills. And that is a really key part of overcoming insomnia, is getting to that place where you have that relationship and that frame of mind with your sleep and with whatever is happening along the way that you're going through this process, whether you're good night, bad night, or whatever it is, that you're at peace with it. And that you're continuing to implement and go through the process, and then trusting that you're going to get there, and it's going to take some time. And when you get to that place, that's when things generally start to improve and you start having better sleep. So those two things are really critical to this process, and probably not very talked about very much. It's mostly just talked about following the skills and implementing the behaviors and all these kinds of things. And yes, that is one critical part. That is actually what creates the change. That is the thing that creates the change. But if you don't have this other frame of mind where you accept what's going on at any given moment, and that you accept that you may not sleep, or you may not sleep as much as you want to, and that you make peace with that you make peace with whatever happens, and that you're not afraid of that, and you truly get to that place, the combination of these two things together, The action and the acceptance is the thing that kills the insomnia and gets you past it and gets you back to, good sleep. So if you found this video helpful today, just press the like button, and you can also subscribe to the channel. And I hope you have a good rest of your week.